You're listening to Seeker of the Word, where we explore the truth of Scripture together. I'm grateful you're here, and if you're seeking deeper understanding, you're not alone. Welcome to today's episode, and thank you so much for being here. Let's endeavor to strip away assumptions, slow down the noise, and ask life's most important questions from the ground up. I'm your host, Mike, and today we start at the very beginning. Why does truth still matter? In a world full of opinions, algorithms, and TikTok takes, what does it mean to say something is actually true? And if truth even exists, how would we recognize it? Let's start there. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when truth was something we pursued, even if we disagreed on the details. But today, phrases like, "that's your truth," "you do you," or "nobody really knows what's true anymore," have become normalized. We live in a postmodern world, an age where truth is no longer seen as something absolute, but rather as something relative. In fact, postmodernism encourages us to question the very concept of truth itself. It's as if we've traded a compass for a kaleidoscope. Everything shifts depending on who's looking, and every perspective is valid, no matter how conflicting they may be. But here's the problem. Without truth, we lose the foundation for trust. Without truth, we cannot pursue justice. Without truth, society can't function. Think about this. What if an engineer assessed a building's structural safety but said, "Well, that's my truth about its stability. Take it or leave it," while disregarding universal mathematical principles? Would you ever set foot in that building? Of course not. Without truth, we lose accountability. What happens when a crime is committed, but there's no agreed upon version of the facts? What if the criminal declares, "I live by my own law, your laws don't apply to me"? Without truth, there's no justice, no common standard, just anarchy. It's easy to think of postmodernism as just a philosophical idea, but it shapes our daily lives more than we realize. In education, it influences what gets taught in classrooms, where history, for instance, is sometimes seen more as interpretation than fact. In media, it's why we can watch two news networks report the same event with completely different narratives. And on social media, algorithms feed us content we already agree with, creating echo chambers where we only hear our side of the story. Let's take a well-known example, the flat earth theory. It might sound bizarre to most of us, but in the age of social media, many people genuinely believe the earth is flat. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence proving the earth is round, some continue to cling to their truth that the earth is flat. And the alarming thing, it's no longer an isolated belief. It's become a movement with its own set of followers, websites, and forums. This is where the consequences of a subjective view of truth become stark. In a postmodern world, what's true for one person can be disregarded by another, regardless of the evidence or facts. As these ideas gain traction in echo chambers, they undermine scientific consensus and social trust. How do we build anything meaningful, be it education, healthcare, or public policy, if we can't even agree on objective facts? Another example comes from a major world event, the Iraq War. Before the invasion of Iraq in 2003, The US government pushed the narrative that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, or WMDs. This claim was widely reported in the media and became the central justification for military action. But after the invasion, it turned out that there were no WMDs in Iraq. The truth was that the information presented to the public was either inaccurate, exaggerated, or outright fabricated. Another recent and tragic example of truth being manipulated is the Boeing 737 MAX disaster. In 2018 and 2019, two fatal crashes involving the Boeing 737 MAX, Lion Air Flight 610 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 resulted in the deaths of 346 people. The crashes were later found to have been caused by a flaw in the aircraft's automated flight control system, specifically the MCAS, or the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, which Boeing had downplayed or failed to properly address in its design and training processes. The Boeing company, eager to compete with Airbus, rushed the development of the MAX model. In order to meet production deadlines, they allegedly suppressed or minimized concerns from engineers about the safety of the MCAS system. Moreover, they did not sufficiently disclose the system's operation to pilots, many of whom were not trained to handle the emergency situations that arose from a malfunction of the system. The result? A massive loss of life. As one former Boeing engineer said during the congressional hearings, "We have a culture where schedule is king and safety is not." These examples, whether it's the flat earth belief, the misleading claims about WMDs, or the 737 MAX crisis, show how easily truth can be manipulated or ignored in the pursuit of personal or political gain. When truth becomes subjective, it opens the door for dangerous falsehoods and harmful ideologies to take root. Without truth as a solid foundation, we risk a society where belief is governed by convenience, not reality. And when belief is disconnected from truth, we enter a world where trust breaks down, relationships disintegrate, and justice becomes an illusion. Without actual truth, we have no anchor. Without objective truth, we have no shared rules. And when subjective truth dominates, all critical pillars of civilization begin to collapse. It's not just philosophers and academics debating this, it's real. Our very own lives are impacted by this crisis of truth. Now let's get practical. When you get a medical diagnosis, you want to know the truth, not someone's guess. When your child lies to your face, you feel betrayed because truth matters in love. When a company promises something and breaks it, you'd want accountability. That's truth and justice side by side. Truth is what anchors relationships, laws, science, and society. Without it, nothing holds. Even if we disagree on what's true, the very act of debating it assumes truth exists. Otherwise, why do it? Why even bother to argue? So, no matter how skeptical our culture gets, truth remains and will still be essential. It's still there, quietly, unshaken, like bedrock beneath shifting sands. Let's now turn to something even more provocative, the idea that truth is not just a concept, but a person. In John 18:37, Pilate asks Jesus whether he is a king. Jesus replies, "You say that I am a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." That's a bold claim. Jesus didn't say he came to share some truth or teach us how to find the truth. He said he came to bear witness to it. Elsewhere, in John 14:6, he makes it even more direct. He says, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Think about that. Jesus didn't claim to point to the truth. He claimed to be the truth. In a postmodern world, that's deeply offensive. It goes against everything we're conditioned to believe about tolerance, pluralism, and personal truth. But it also speaks directly to our deepest need, not just for information, but for transformation. A truth we can trust, even when everything else feels uncertain. And here's where it becomes personal. If truth is just a matter of opinion, then our deepest questions, who am I? Why am I here? What's wrong with the world? How can it be made right? Don't really have answers, just perspectives. But if truth is found in a person, and that person is Jesus, then knowing him isn't just about religion, it's about reality. It's about anchoring your life, not in shifting opinion, but in eternal truth. And here's the paradox. The truth didn't come to condemn the world, but to save it. He entered a world full of lies, hypocrisy, and distortion. And instead of wielding power, he laid it down. He bore false accusations. He was tried by corrupt systems, and he was crucified by people who couldn't handle the truth standing in front of them. But he didn't stay dead. And in rising, he proved that truth cannot be buried forever. Truth lives. The truth reigns. His claim to be the truth invites a response, not just agreement, but surrender, not just belief, but transformation. Because if Jesus is the truth, then every other claim has to be measured against him. And in a world starving for clarity, craving justice, and desperate for trust, that's the kind of truth we need. So let's bring this home. We've seen that truth is not optional, it's essential. We've looked at what happens when it's lost, and we've pondered on what life might look like if we truly lived as if truth mattered. But here's the deeper question. If truth exists, can we know it? And if we can know it, can we trust it? In a world full of noise, misinformation, and shifting narratives, the invitation of Jesus still stands. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice. That's where we'll pick things up next time. Not with abstract truth, but with the question of redemption. If truth does exist and we've broken it, how do we make things right again? What is the cost of restoration? I hope this episode helps you take one step closer to a faith that's not just inherited, but examined and anchored in truth. Until next time, keep seeking. Thank you for joining Seeker of the Word. Keep seeking, keep growing. See you next time.